There we go.
Ooh, let me stop doing
that. Nothing worse than echo.
I know. Okay, so recording started as well because nobody seemed to have any issue with it.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. So yeah, Kelly is monitoring the chat. I am on full screen share, so I can't see the chat currently. Okay, cool. I think everything's good. So hello everyone. My name is Jodie Heap. I am one of the I am Scholarly Communications and Research Support Librarian. They put every word they could into that title. And this session is going to be a sort of light introduction to open research. I say that because it is like the Wild West out there in terms of open research. There are a lot of avenues and nooks and crannies and discussions going on. You might also hear it called open science, but I prefer open research because it invites everybody to take part. So I can go off on tangents. I will try not to, but if you do have any questions at any point, feel free to pop them in the chat or give me a wave, and we'll have a nice chat about it. So I'm not being too formal, is what I'm trying to say. I'm happy to stop and go off. Okay, cool. So we're gonna click. There we go. So the overview of this session is we are going to be looking at what open research means. What is it? Why? Who? When? What? We're going to be looking at some best practices, so managing and sharing research data. How do you access it? How do you share yours if you want to share it? We're going to have a look at what open access is in terms of publication. So open access might be a term that you've heard before, maybe. And then having just a quick discussion around policies, compliance and researcher responsibilities, and then we'll be linking it into the research development framework as well. Okay, so open research, question mark. So we're not even getting to a question really, just a statement at that point. So open research is a movement that is taking place at the moment, and I get very nerdy and excited about that because I love me an ethical movement, and it's a transaction that is taking place where we're trying to move research as a process and as a concept towards being transparent, towards being responsible, okay, and having accessibility. So a lot of institutions have typically had closed doors, subscription blocking access, and all this valuable data, all these valuable outputs have not been accessible and available to the wider world, okay? And that's a real shame because people are really smart and we can learn from each other, but we have to have access to do that. So open research is this transaction that is taking place in terms of making our data more accessible and open, and making our publication processes of our findings open and accessible. And within that, we're starting to get things called open methods and open peer review, where things are coming out into the light. So currently the peer review process, when something gets submitted to a journal, we don't know who the peer reviewers are. Who are they? We don't know. And obviously that has its pros and it has its cons as well. So there is these movements taking place where people are trying to figure out, is there a process that we can engage in that changes how closed and behind and secretive these things are, that is ethical, responsible, and can be done successfully. So it is a conversation. I'm not here to say that this is the best and only way forward, just that it is something that the industry as a whole is trying to explore, and I really encourage you to get on board with it. And one of my favourite things is OERs, Open Educational Resources. So if you make something, a set of slides, a leaflet, anything during your time and you want to share it, let's publish it. And let's share it with undergrads, let's share it with the wider communities, and let's have them make benefit from your knowledge and experience by making a material that can be used for education. So there are publication routes available that I would like to explore. Just quite selfish of me really, isn't it? But I'm like, I'm interested, let's all go do that, it'd be fun. And the benefits really of all of this is to say that by making things more open, we have benefits to you as researchers, because really we want to be in it for ourselves. What's the benefit to me? And it's visibility. Okay, it's collaboration, it's trust and impact. So by opening up the door, opening up that conversation about how we do our research and what our findings are, we gain more trust with the public, we gain more trust with our fellow colleagues, and we get ourselves known in the industry, and we can have that conversation earlier and, you know, connect with people. And that's really good for our research and our sort of careers wherever we go after this. So what is open research? Finally progressing to a question now. So it's an approach that makes the processes, the outputs and the data that we make open and as accessible as possible. Sometimes it is not ethical to share everything that we have come across in our research. If we are surveying people, if it is sensitive, it is not always the appropriate thing to do. But sometimes it is. Sometimes it is safe, sometimes we do have permission, and sometimes we can get that information shared. And if we build that into the beginning of our process by getting our permissions, having our participants agree to their data being shared in a safe, ethical manner, then we can share it at the end or through our process. But we have to know that from the beginning. So this is why I'm doing this session so early on, because if you are informed, you can start to consider it during your process, during the cycle of your information research development, so that you can make that process yeah, so from planning methods to data, code, publications, educational resources, all of these things can be produced during your PhD, and all of them could be shared if you wanted them to. Again, no obligations. You can pick, you can choose. There's not a tick box process, but you can engage if this is something that you think would be a moral good. And I like to do it. Again, the aim is to make research transparent, reproducible, and widely usable. I'll just have a slight segue into America for a moment and say that one of the issues that they're really experiencing over there is a lack of trust in science and a lack of trust in research. And so by making things more open so that people who are not specialists in this area have an understanding of how that research was done, achieved, and the results as a outcome of that research, they can have more confidence, hopefully, and trust the researchers and trust the research and not just feel left out and not included. And the real impact of that is the scenario like America, where they're having this real discussion around vaccines, for example. I'm just going to move this up there for a moment. And again, so it supports the collaboration, innovation, and general public trust that we have in open research. Why would I do open research? Like, lovely that those things happen. But what's in it for me? Again, I think that's always a really important question. It's certainly something I say when someone asks me to do something. Why would I do that? And really, it's about visibility and impact. Okay, you can early doors start having that conversation with the wider community that you are involved in your subject specialisms about how they share their data, what repositories are they engaging in, what data have they accessed that they have used in their research. So it just broadens this conversation and allows you to have a greater impact with the work that you are doing. Okay, and greater equity of access. More people do it, then more people benefit, and then more people do it and more people benefit. And it sounds like a pyramid scheme, but it is just full of goodness and joy. And that's why I like being a librarian, because we bring information to people, and this honestly is a route where you can do that. And I totally understand why people are nervous about sharing their work. I totally understand it, but you guys are experts. You have more knowledge than people who don't have your experience, and you have the skills, and you engage with the KDA and engage with the library, and we can support you to get you to the point where you are confident and comfortable in sharing your works, and everybody benefits. It's lovely. It sounds really sweet when I say it. I'm like, but there's no downside, I swear. And you get really good career development because you can engage with people, and it demonstrates that you are confident in what your work is, and that is received well by your peers. One of the contexts is not just moral, ethical goodness. There is also a stick in this, in that they the grant bodies, the organisations that are external to the institution that you will engage with if you are grant funded for your PhD, or after this if you go on to do grant research, they have an expectation of you sharing your works openly and publicly, and all those things, the open research, open access, they have that as a mandate expectation, because if they are publicly funded through tax money, then the public deserve to have the outcome of your works. And so there is actually also, in certain circumstances, a mandate that you will have to comply with, and that might just be open access, or it might be open data, or again there's this growth of open practice, open peer review. So there's lots of new avenues that are coming up, and the sort of international drivers, let me move that there again, are changing all the time. So again, you can come and talk to someone like myself, whose job it is to understand and intersect with what those expectations are and how you can meet them, and how the library can support you to meet them. So you're not just left to your own devices. We are here to help you, but in certain circumstances there is also sort of an expectation that you will. So lovely, but also you might have to. Okay, so I'm going to jump now into the two main areas of open research and open access. Those are the sort of main ways that we have started to engage in open research as the concept. Open data really being the newer one. Can I find a little you? Oh yes, there we go. Just fear of losing everyone. So with open data, really the question then is, what counts as research data? And it can really be anything. It can be quantitative, qualitative, it can be digital, and it can be physical. Obviously, if we are preserving it digitally, we need to convert that physical item into a digital product. So whether that's taking a photo of it or recording it somewhere. It can be raw, it can be processed, it can be derived, it can be published. So there are different ways that you can have that data. It can be embargoed, it can be open for everyone. Again, there are different ways of presenting it. When we are looking into sharing our information, you don't just want to yeet some data onto the internet and be like, there you go. What does it mean? Nobody knows. So we have to work through and understand, how would I explain this information so that somebody else could use it? And that's typically done through things like README files. And again, I have a whole session that I can do on that, so I'm not going to go into it too much. But you want to be understanding yourself of how you could use it. The benefit to getting into that practice early is actually when you come back to your data in 6 months, a year, 2 years, you think, what did I do? What did I do? How did I get here? What does it mean? You forget yourself. So it's useful to get into that best practice of saying, actually, I'm going to write these notes down as though they're for someone else, even if they're only for me, so that I can take advantage of my own data in a year's time when I've forgotten everything and everything has left my brain. Happens more often than you think. Everyone thinks they will remember, they do not. And then if you do want to share it, you at least have the records there. So as part of the process, you might be asked to do a data management plan, which again, if you are engaging in grant-supported information, you will have a funder and an institutional requirement, and the amount of information might vary. It's all a bit vague at this point, because I'm like, depending on who you are and what you're doing at what stage, and if you're a researcher or a PGR. Basically, in the data management plan, it will outline how the data will be collected, managed, shared, and preserved. And within that, you can consider how open you are going to be. So all of this could be kept private, but it could be shared. So you could say, I'm going to collect this data, and during that collection, I will ask the participants if they are willing for the information to be shared. And then I will share it through a repository, which will also preserve the data, and that can be done through the library. So you see how this process will occur anyway, but open research means that we are considering how open we can make that information to share it with others. And again, if you want to access data that someone else has made, they will have gone through that process. So it's reciprocal in its nature. The nice thing with data management plans is they are living documents, so you can update them as you go. There might be a point at which you have to submit it, but up till then you can start thinking about that now and start considering it and leaning in and making those notes. So yeah, data management plans are good. I love me a repository. I love keeping information safe. I like libraries. I like archives. They're good places to be, good energy. So if you have some data, you can pop it into a repository. And again, there is not a mandate on where you do that. So the university does have its own repository, but you might also be talking to your supervisors and they might have a preference for an external repository. So OSF, Zenodo are popular repositories that people can use, and you can go and access other people's materials there, and you can also submit your material there. And depending on what your research is and what the data looks like, those different repositories might have better features or not. So there's not a specific one that I can say use this one, but if in doubt, the Keele one is a good one. And in that process, what you will do is you'll prepare the data ready for it to be deposited. So yeah, I'm not going to mess with it anymore. We will create what's called a digital object identifier. And that's a little bit like an ISBN on a book. And what that does is it enables anyone who's looking for that data or that material to always find it. Because we all know URLs are rubbish and they break and they are just pants. So we want materials and we want researchers to have persistent identifiers. We want material that you produce to have digital object identifiers that are persistent and don't disappear on us. And then we can link that to any outputs. So once you have finished with your data, you've got your digital object identifier, you can then put it on a website, you can share it in an email, you can tell everyone where to find it, and it's in the same place safe. So it's a really good process. And you might all look at me and think, duh, yeah. But this is a new idea for a lot of people on the internet, that things might be persistently findable. A lot of things are just like yeeted onto the website, and then when the website goes down, you go, it's gone forever. Terrible news. The internet is new, guys. I don't know if you've heard of it. Yeah, I know. The downside is no one has thought about how we keep anything safe on there. Wild West. So the benefits of this are that we have preservation, discoverability and compliance. Again, if it's a mandated process, you have your compliance to make things open. So that's available there. We have the Keele data repository. Ta-da! She's not sexy, but she does exist, and we love her for that. She's going to have a glow up soon, I think, but we'll see if we can get that through IT. But yeah, and if we have time at the end, I'm not sure what time we're on. I'm not doing too bad. I'll do a website demo of how to get to her. Okay, so just a very brief segue into the FAIR data sharing principles. And again, I'm going to do a whole session on FAIR. Look forward to that soon. I had the training yesterday on how to deliver it. But basically, when we talk about data, we want it to be findable. So, okay, you've put it into a repository, but you've given it a really weird name and no one can find it. So that's not helpful. I mean, we've got the DOI, but yeah, so we want to have some good naming practices. I don't know if you've ever seen on Amazon where the title is like giantly long and it's every word they could possibly think of for like fluffy, glittery, sparkly, every synonym adjective. That's because they're trying to make people find their product. So similar vibes, but less, yeah. Want it to be accessible. So is it in a format that people can download and access easily? Again, the problem we have a lot is that people use proprietary software and then no one can open the data. It's not helpful. So can we convert your data in some way into a more commonly used platform? Is it got conventions that are in place that enable access to it? Is it interoperable? Is it, openable in those correct new platforms? Is it communicable in terms of what the data actually means and how it can be used? And then reusable, obviously, is it actually downloadable and accessible? A lot of those sound similar, and I'm not explaining them well in this brief moment, but it's there and we want to apply to it. So basically, is it findable, accessible? Can we use it? How do we share it with others in the future? So I'm trying to future-proof the data, really. Okay, That's data. Huzzah. Now we go into open access publishing. This one, she's a bit older, she's more established. Open research, she's a bit Wild West. Open access, I'll say, is tidier. Publishers, they're fun people to talk to, I can guarantee it. Yeah, so much fun, publishers. But yeah, open access a little bit more established. So when people say open, what they probably are referring to is open access in terms of, okay, you've done all your research and you've written your article and you want to publish it. How do we share that with people? So that's been going on for the sort of last 15 years, 20 years is an idea. And so it's a wee bit more established, but still new concept. So what is open access? Essentially, it is making publications free to read and reuse online, okay? And this is where we come into copyright, which is always fun. And basically, there are licenses that can be applied to your works that say, you can use this work in different ways, and I permit the use of it in that way. And if you use it correctly, great. And if you don't, I get to sue you. But typically, people are very good and they don't misuse the information. And it's copyright law, she's scary, but this is lovely because it's really clear. There are licenses of different types that you can apply, and it's been established because people want it to be clear and they want it to be easy, and it's mostly there. So again, come talk to me. The things that are interesting to you, that there are different avenues to publishing your work open access, okay? And again, I can do a whole session on this, so I'm briefly touching on it. Don't hate me if it's confusing, I'm really sorry, it's really complex. So the key routes are, we've got gold open access. This is when we publish through a journal title on their website, and everyone can see it and everyone has access. And then we call it gold because I think of it as like, you've got your ball gown on, she's fancy, she's got all the diamonds, you know what I mean? The downside is you do have to pay the publisher for that process, okay? Because they have to pay for the website, they have to pay for the copy editors, they have to pay for the ball gown to go on your piece of work. And so there is a cost to that because they have to run a business too. We also have the green route, which is via the internal repository. So you have written your article, she's been peer reviewed, but she hasn't got a ball gown on yet. she hasn't brushed her hair, but she hasn't curled it, is kind of where I think of it. That piece of work, that can go into the repository and be shared publicly. And then the fancy ball gown version of your work is behind closed doors. So you can still meet open access with the plainer version of your work before it goes through its transformation, or you can have the gold version. The library does have deals in place that allow you to have the gold version through the library paying for that process. I can tell that's already a lot of information. Don't worry, just know they exist. If you see green and gold, just think, yeah, I've heard of those terms. And then come and ask me if you need some support. Yes, and there are all other models such as diamond and hybrid. I'm not even going to touch on those now, but they do exist. And again, if you see those terms, you can just think, yep, I've heard of those terms. It's not meant to be confusing, but somehow there's too many options. It's like going to an ice cream shop and they've got too many options. It's lovely. Okay, so in terms of policies and compliance, again, depending on who your grant is from and who you're engaging with, they might mandate that you have to make your work open access. Okay, so just to be aware of it, really. And if you want support, come and contact the library and we can support you with your open access requirements, your funder mandates, the different licenses that can be applied, how comfortable you are, how open you're willing to be, and we can make sure that the deposit is done at the point that it needs to be. Timing can be very important. Okay, there's lots of support available. So we have Keel's Research Repository. We have a policy in place on which basically says that you will maintain control of your works when you are at the institution, whether you are a PGR or an academic researcher. We have a policy in place that says that you will always maintain the copyright ownership of your works. It's a really cool policy, guys. I want to know, it's so cool, because that's not always the case. Sometimes they go off to these publishers and then you hand over your copyright and it's gone. So sad. Anyway, we also have a general open access statement, which is basically the sort of university agreeing to this stance of being open and engaging with the industry as it makes this transition to try and open up the research process. And of course, you've got the library support for compliance and guidance, and just generally everything that we can possibly do, we will support you. So we try. Okay. So I mentioned earlier that we have a route to gold through the library, and it's through what we call a transformative agreement. And it's transformative because we used to have agreement that just said, yeah, you can read these things, you know, the standard library setup, a by access, everybody gets to read it, sort of standard. Over the time, we have negotiated with the publishers to say, people at our institution, can they publish in your journals and it be open? And they're like, for some money, yes. And so we have this deal that we've come to and negotiated where you can both, everybody gets to read everything from that publisher, and a certain number of titles you can publish with them as well. So yeah. And it means that you don't get the charge on you as the author. So you just have to go through the workflow and you get it. I have a brand new tool that I launched on the 1st of October. Screaming, crying, called SciFreeze. It's the journal search tool. I will do a demo of it shortly, which aggregates all of the titles that we have gold publishing with or a discount with for everyone to access. It looks like this. It's super simple. It's super clean. Again, I will do a proper demo of it shortly, but just for anyone who not here today and is only looking at the slides, I wanted to include it. Yes. Okay. So just a warning note, all of this is mostly being fun, light and airy. Because money is involved in publishing, there are some bad actors that exist in the world, okay? And we call these predatory journals. And so how some, I'm trying to think of an analogy. You know, if you go to Wetherspoons, you know what you're getting. Or you go to a fancy high-end restaurant, you have an expectation of service. If you go somewhere you've never been before, you're not quite sure what's the process going to be like. And they might offer you a really good deal to come inside, you know, bug off, 100% off, free. Like, they'll offer you things to entice you to share your work, because not every journal has a library agreement in place. Not everything. Do you know what I mean? There are situations where they might say, come and publish in our journal for free. Or there might be a charge later on, and you do need to be aware of it. So I don't want to scare you. They are very rare because the support is in place to stop and check and think and make sure that you are comfortable and confident with where you're publishing. But at the end of the day, it is your decision on where you publish. And so just a note of caution that predatory journals are a thing that exist, and to just be aware of them. And there is a tool called Think, Check, Submit. Again, this is linked, so we'll share the slides and that'll be a link there, which you can use to talk you through a sort of semi-checklist of how comfortable you are with that title and journal, and to see if you are comfortable or confident. And again, talk to a librarian such as me, and we can say, oh, yeah, I've not heard good things about that journal, or no, that one's fine, I know it looks weird, but they just haven't spent much on their website. Happens. Okay. So I mentioned it a little bit earlier, the institutional rights retention policy. It's so cool, guys. I know it doesn't seem it, but it really is. It basically ensures that any authors that we have here at Keele get to keep their rights to share their manuscript. Okay, so even if you want to go to a traditionally subscription closed door journal, because that's the best place for your work, you can still submit your green version, the plain version, to the repository that we have here at Keele, and you will get your digital object identifier, and you can still share the plain version of your works immediately. It's so cool that we have got to that point. Publishing and copyright, they are sticky areas, and so the fact that we have this policy in place, it came in August last year, and yeah, I'm really proud of the institution for getting to that point. If you do want to take advantage of it, you just need to include a statement on your submission that says, for the purposes of open access, the author has applied a Creative Commons Attribution SCC BY license to any author accepted manuscript version arising from this submission. So just before you submit, pop that in. And then if it is accepted, you have claimed your rights as an author to keep that material. Here is the sexier version of the outputs repository, unlike the data repository. She's got a blue banner, guys, so different. So on here, we have all of the outputs from the institution. So all of our authors, once they get to publication, whether that is a journal title, a journal article, or a book, or a alternative material, so it could be a conference proceedings, for example, all of that material gets published in here. So go and have a nosy is what I recommend, because there's good stuff in there. You know, check out your supervisors, see what they're doing, see what's going on. Okay, so to sort of bring it back to our clientele, as it were, open research in your PhD. This session specifically will link through to professional conduct, communication and dissemination and research management. So if you are looking at your researcher development framework, you can tick those off and include them. So that's how we link that session into here. The general benefits of open research are increased visibility and citation. We've got compliance with our funders and our ref requirements. It supports reproducibility and innovation, and it builds trust in society, which we love. And I mentioned this in the previous talk, but basically open research and research as a process, it's not a line, it's a cycle that we move through, and you will move forwards and you will move backwards. Sometimes you're doing two things at once. And so don't expect it to just be this linear process that you plod through, okay? It is something that you will iterate and come back to and have to go and get help with, and oh, this is taking much longer than I think. And all of those stages are completely normal, and all of them could be open. So you can make your process open, you can communicate your work, you can think now about how you want to make your work available at the end of your degree process. And I just encourage you to think about that and think about what data you could share. Is there any publications that you might want to share? And if you go on to do further research, how you can engage in openness as an activity when you are researching. So yes. All right, summary, and then I'll do a screen demo of things. So to summarise, open research is open data, open access and transparent practices around how you are doing your research. There are institutional policies and national mandates that help guide us with our practices. Researchers gain visibility, impact and comply with their compliance elements, and the library research services provide guidance and support at every stage whenever we can. If you need further help, here are some links that can be useful to you. And we also have a SharePoint dedicated to academic researchers at the institution. So we do have the library website, but because that is open to everyone, including undergraduates, we have a separate SharePoint for the more advanced sessions on information literature, searching, publications, stuff that undergraduates don't need access to. We don't want to scare them. So we have our own zone. And again, I'll show you that in a second. Okay. Oh, I meant to put any questions at the end, but I forgot. Okay, so I'll pause there for a second and just say, is there any questions from anyone?
I just want to say as well, like, I know it can sound like a lot to take.
Yes.
It is for us too. So, you know, we're, you know, my group are already publishing stuff. We are still working out how to navigate some of this. We still frequently ask Jodie or Scott, how does this work? Only earlier today I was discussing green versus gold with her, and I've already now got more questions to ask her. So don't feel, if you feel a little bit overwhelmed by it, don't think, oh, it's just me. It's not. All the academics, everyone heads around it, and that's why Jodie, Scott, the library are here to help us. We don't expect you to all instantaneously understand all this, because we don't either. We're still navigating it in terms of, you know, publishing and what we can publish where and all of these different agreements. So yeah, just to say, you know, you're not expected to now understand it all perfectly. Jodie and Scott are here for that.
But sometimes my brain hurts because they'll change a rule and I think, I don't know what to do with that change. So what do they want? And it's just us all asking each other, how do you read that?
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of iteration and talking goes on because they don't, yeah, they just keep things open, which is nice, but then you're sort of left trying to guess sometimes. So it's not you, it is the system.
There's a question online from Abay. He says, is there any clear way to identify the journals in terms of open access, not open access, predatory?
Good question. So the question there is twofold because there's a publishing element and there's an access element. And so the journals will tell you if they are open access or if they are hybrid, open access and closed, or if they are purely closed. So that will be visible. What makes it confusing is that if you go, say, through the library will give you access. So sometimes it will say provided by Keele University Library in the top corner, and that will give you access to the stuff that we pay for. So you'll think, is it open or is it just paid for? And even for us, that can be a little bit hard. So sometimes I have to VPN out and look at it that way. So it depends on what you're trying to do. If you're just trying to access something, if you can access it, it's accessible, and if you can't, then it's closed. And if you want something that we don't have paid access to, or it's not open access, you will need to use the interlibrary loan that I mentioned in the previous introduction session, where we can ask other institutions for access to their materials. So if we don't have something, we can probably get it for you, and there are ways and means to do that. In terms of publishing, what I would recommend is the journal search tool, which is found through the Open Research tab of the SharePoint. And if you come into here, it will allow you to do a search, and you can see it indicates who the title belongs to, so who's the overarching publisher of that material, who pays for the cost of the open access element, so the library. It allows multiple licenses, and you can see that it says the publishing model is open access and this one is hybrid. So I'm very proud of the journal search tool. It literally came in October as a product that aggregates all of the agreements the library has, and it makes it really easy for everyone at the institution to see if you can easily publish through that title. Okay, so that's my recommendation, is you can have a look online and see where you want to publish. If there is a title that you're not sure about, the Think, Check, Submit is probably your best next place to go to, and it will allow you to have a look at a checklist of materials of, have you heard of this journal before? Have you come across them when you're researching? If you've never heard of them and you've never come across them, you know, see how you feel, go through the checklist, follow the information that it recommends. Is it easily indexed? So things like Web of Science is an indexing database that we employ that classifies journals and sort of aggregates them, and if they're not in that index, then that makes me suspicious because their job is to find reputable journal titles. So there are little tips and tricks that you can employ, and a lot of researchers just email me and say, is this one a good one? And then I'll come back and say maybe, or yes, I can confirm that I'm happy with that one as a title. So I wish there was more straightforward, but that's as best as I can get you with the two links.
I feel like a little bit in terms of the predatory journals comes with experience as well, doesn't it? Again, it is difficult navigating. If you're ever unsure, do ask.
Yeah.
I do feel like you start to get a sense for it, don't you?
I think if someone starts asking you for money,
yeah,
then that's a sign. Because if you have a grant and you have money, then you can just go for a gold APC, and that's really where the danger comes in. If you don't have money, then you can't pay them. So don't proceed is my warning with that. If you aren't at the point where you have a grant to draw money from, then you will have to consider alternative ways to publish. So don't panic too much about it. It's not so much a common thing that you need to be aware of it all the time, but it's enough that I just want you to know that it could happen in the future.
Yeah, it's best to be aware of it, and it's always best to be a bit too cautious than not cautious.
Yes, yeah. I always feel like it's a bit of a downer when I'm like, there are predatory journals, but
there are
bad actors. So yeah.
Herbert says thank you for the
excellent. Cool.
Any other questions in here?
One. It's just out of my own curiosity. If it's like a gold open access and you have to pay for it, would that be like a one-off payment, or would it be like a subscription?
Yeah, so it's a one-off payment, and depending on the journal, it can really vary. So from a publisher's perspective, their job is to host this information and make money. And they can make money through people subscribing to read the material. But if we're making that material free, then they're like, how do I make money? So they say, okay, you, the author, you have to pay me to put your information onto my platform. And depending on how popular that journal is and the publisher's perception of the costs of that, it can be many thousands of pounds. So again, it's I say it's complicated because if you are a researcher and you've got a big grant, you can just pay for it. That's fine. That's a possibility. If you're within an institution like here at Keele, the library might have an agreement, in which case we've paid for it. Or it might just be that you're happy to go for a closed access, subscription only route where the author doesn't pay and the reader pays, but you maybe have your green version in your repository that you want to share. So the answer, because there are routes to it depending on your circumstances and where you are in your research career, of how you would engage with getting your work published. And that's why I exist as a job, to tell people about the different routes and talk you through your options. So yes, you can just pay if you have the money.
And that's something we're doing at the moment. So as a research group, we haven't got any funding currently. There is stuff we want to publish. I was talking to Jodie about it earlier. So we're going down the route of having the green access. So it will get published by a specific journal. We can't pay for the gold, ball gown version of it. We haven't got the money ourselves. I don't believe that it's one that's linked to Keele in terms of being paid for. So we're going down the green access. So we'll publish with them. Obviously, those who pay to see it will see it anyway on their website. But we will aim to have it green access. So it will be available to the public through the Keele repository. I think I've explained that.
No, absolutely. And the only, I'll say downside, it's not a downside. The only downside is in terms of when we talk about impact and metrics, if it were an open journal, it might have more visibility. And so when you're picking your journal title to publish in, that is a consideration. Is it more important for it to be in that specific title, or more important that it is open access? And then that kind of comes through into mandate compliance and what title you think is best. So again, there are many options. None of them are wrong, and it just depends on what your circumstances are. Did you have a question?
Yes. Yes, I'm aware of the copyright policies and the terms and conditions when it comes to open publishing. But then I was just wondering, like, assuming I am an independent researcher, and I don't have this institutional support and maybe funding from external bodies to help me with my publications. I was just wondering, what's the logic behind this researcher having to pay for his own work to get out there to the audience, assuming I am an independent
absolutely
researcher, and I don't understand the logic behind that particular rule, or I don't know.
Yes, so whilst you're studying here, you are affiliated with Keele, so you do benefit from all the library deals. But if you were just completely independent, the short answer is publishers are businesses and they have to make money. And if people want their work to be published open access, then money has to be made. And that's the short answer from a business perspective. And they are trying to figure out ways around that. There are diamond publishers who raise money through advertising different things, or they raise money through charities to enable that journal to exist. But that's not so common, and I completely agree. And so if you were an independent, you would probably perhaps be forced into a paywalled, no cost to the author but cost to the reader, not open situation, which is not ideal. But all of these are options and routes and choices that are made, and sometimes it's not fair. Yeah, no, trust me, I get it, because I would love it to just be free and open. I want information to be free and open, but then I come across capitalism and businesses, and they really get in my way. But I understand people need paying for like food and stuff, so
it's difficult to navigate, isn't it?
It is because I think some publishers are quite
it's difficult.
Not whilst I'm being recorded while I tell you what I think of some publishers, but suffice to say, they are not always philanthropic with their charging practices. And as a library, I can tell you that is painful to get through, because at the end of the day, we can only spend so much money on purchasing access to things. Yes. So we'll leave that one there. Talk to me later if you want to hear what I really think. Anything else? Yeah.
So once something's been published with like a certain level of access,
yes,
is it possible for it to be changed after, or is it kind of restricted to what it was published?
Yeah, typically at the point of publication, you will apply your openness license and that will be it moving forward, because once it's released into the wild, there's not really a way of bringing it back and changing it, and people, my recommendation is what we call the 4.0, the totally open. As long as you acknowledge that I created it, do what you like with it. That's my recommendation, because you will receive the most benefit from allowing people to have access to and remix and apply your works to how they want to incorporate it. But there are more restrictive licenses and like non-commercial applications, for example. There's a nice website which I could send you and we can show you, and we can do an in-depth session on it. But yeah, there are different licenses that are available to protect you. And one of the big conversations at the moment is a fear of making things open because of AI scraping. But I can tell you that the private publishers are also selling the works to these AI companies. So you might as well have the benefit of you being acknowledged through it being open and shared that way, because it will happen anyway. So it's a fun world out there at the moment with AI. It's really pros and cons. So yeah. Oh, okay. Let me just see. Let me see if we get Teams back. Oh, where are you? Here. Stop showing so we don't have Inception. Okay. Cool. Kelly's had to pop out for a phone call, so I'm going to say if there's no more questions, that is the end of the session. Double check online, double check in person. Okay, cool. All right. Well, thank you everyone online. I will say goodbye to you and end the session, and I will say goodbye to everyone in person as well. And yes, thank you guys. Thanks. Bye.